Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Ripple's pushing for $2 trillion of XRP liquidity in the correspondent banking system, says Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse. That is a new headline from dailyhodl.com. A fascinating story, and it just goes back to the core concept of one of Ripple's main goals being to either reduce, well, we'd like to say eliminate, but really is just dramatically reduce the correspondent banking system's reliance on Nostra-Vostra accounts. That's the pre-funding of accounts the world over to make it possible to convert one fiat currency to another. Now, the way in which this was written, I feel that there could be a little misunderstanding of what's actually occurring here, so I am looking forward to running through this. I've also got another interesting story that I'll be covering after that. Also from the Daily Hodl, and it's titled, Largest Shopping Mall Operator in the United States Goes All In on Bitcoin ATMs for Holiday Shoppers. But before we get going any further here, if you would please, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please ever so delicately tap that like button. If you would be willing to do that, I definitely appreciate it. I don't know how this YouTube algorithm thing works, but I do know if you're willing to do that, it would definitely help out the channel. That's the reason that I humbly ask that at the beginning of each video. And consider subscribing unless you completely hate me, which would be reasonable too. I'd be like, okay, I get it. I'm just a stupid moon Lambo. It's okay. But let's go ahead and hop into this first piece. Oh, but first, a shout out to XRP Crypto Wolf. Thank you very much for sending this article my way. I'll tell you what, XRP Crypto Wolf, he is all over this. He sends me all sorts of the hottest tracks every day. You know, the hottest articles directly to my Twitter inbox every day. He's just all over everything happening in the world of Ripple and XRP. So a very sincere thank you to you, sir. There's a reason that I highlight a lot of him very frequently on this channel. Anyway, so Ripple pushing $2 trillion of XRP liquidity in the correspondent banking system. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse says the payment startup is pushing to use the crypto asset XRP as the bedrock of an ambitious overhaul of the way money moves across borders. And indeed, that's frequently referred to as the plumbing, completely reworking the way things occur. In a new interview on the Jay Kim Show, Garlinghouse says the current correspondent banking system, which relies in part on the need for banks and financial institutions to hold pools of money in various bank accounts around the world, is cumbersome and outdated. By the way, I do want to say I completely agree that it's outdated, but let me pose a question here real quick. It's sort of a devil's advocate type of thing. Obviously, I'm Mr. XRP Bull. I brought this up maybe once or twice over the last couple months before, and I haven't really heard a great answer on what this type of scenario would look like. But obviously, we'd like to ideally eliminate Nostra-Vostra accounts. I don't know if they're ever 100% going to go away. Because consider this. In order for XRP to be utilized as a bridge currency, it has to have a sufficient blend of price and liquidity, right? So what happens, because consider there's other developers building on top of the XRP ledger, not just Ripple. Fine, they're the most prominent, and there's a reason that we're here. And a lot of it does have to do with Ripple, but not just them. It's not as if XRP is a security or something along those lines. Certainly not. But what happens if way down the road, say that Ripple finds wild success, and indeed XRP has, let's just say, completely replaced Nostra accounts, just for a fun hypothetical situation, right? So let's say that happens. What, say it's a decade down the road, okay? What happens then if something bad happens to the price of XRP? Because again, there has to be a sufficient blend of price and liquidity in order for these transfers to be able to take place, right? And so right now, the reason that there's certainty that you can move money around the world is because there are pre-funded accounts the world over. So if those are gone, and XRP is being utilized for that purpose, and they're not going to get 100% market share, but let's just say, just for a fun critical thinking exercise, let's say they did. What would that look like if XRP price went down and there was no longer a sufficient blend of price and liquidity to complete these transactions? Have you ever wondered what that might look like? And so that's why I think in reality, you're going to see a dramatic reduction in these pre-funded accounts, but I don't know if they're ever completely going to go away. First of all, some people just kind of have their motives. They have relationships with other banks anyway, so there's always going to be something there, I suspect. But I just, what's your just in case scenario if something like that happened? What if some, people lost faith in XRP because there are other developers that became even bigger than Ripple building on top of the XRP ledger, and they hit hard times, and people lost a little bit of faith for some reason? It gets just a critical thinking exercise there. What does that look like? What replaces it? What allows, because that would stop the plumbing, right? Or severely impact it. What would happen? Would the market just correct then, and then it would go back up because individuals needs to be used to move money around the world? Well, maybe, but what if the fact that XRP price went down had nothing to do with that in the first place? That's what I'm kind of getting at. What if money was in there for a different reason, and then they're like, no, we no longer want to be there, and it has nothing to do with Ripple? Just kind of a fun exercise. So I don't know what that would look like, and that's why I also don't know if there's going to be, just for that reason alone, if that would be enough cause for there would be some sort of connection in regards to pre-funding of accounts regardless. So I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that, though. But I've asked that maybe once or twice on the channel before, and I haven't really heard anything back from anybody, but it's interesting to think through. But anyway, according to Garlinghouse, Ripple's XRP-based remittance product, OnDemand Liquidity, ODL, is designed to replace that current model in the long run. Garlinghouse says Ripple is aiming for on-demand liquidity to take over $2 trillion of liquidity in the current system in the coming years. And here's a quote from Garlinghouse now. There's $10 trillion pre-funded in accounts around the world, which is effectively the oil that is facilitating the engine that is correspondent banking. The oil has to be there, or correspondent banking won't work. Now, if we can reduce the amount of oil, that improves the efficiency of the global economy. So we feel like, bit by bit, we're going to be able to take that $10 trillion down to $9 trillion, to $8 trillion. This is a journey that will take many years, but we're incredibly enthused by the progress we've made in a relatively short amount of time. Now, here's another point that I wanted to make on this, and that's true. And so he said 9 trillion and then 8 trillion, and it's not as if Ripple's going to stop there. The reason that they came up with this $2 trillion mark number for this particular article is because they're talking about going from 10 to 8, and he just cited that. It was kind of an off-the-cuff type of statement right there. It doesn't mean that they're going to stop there, just to be clear. They'd like to eliminate as much of the reliance on Nostra Vostra accounts pre-funding as they possibly can, certainly. So here's one point that I wanted to make, because look, the way it's labeled, Ripple pushing for $2 trillion of XRP liquidity in the correspondent banking system. Okay, but I don't think a lot of people, I mean, you may know this because you're in the world of XRP, but there are also always new people joining the XRP community. But what's happening here is understand that XRP isn't replacing the pre-funded dollars, whatever's in those accounts, and it doesn't have to be dollars. I don't literally mean that, but we're not going to replace that on a 1-to-1 ratio. Like that's not the purpose of this. You'd just be shuffling money from one place to another. So XRP it eliminates the need for pre-funding. Part of the reason is you don't have, it's not just dormant, like that's actually buying and selling that's already occurring on exchanges, for example, and then we're just able to route it to a particular exchange via OnDemand Liquidity, formerly known as XRapid, and so it can move back and forth a whole bunch of times. What I'm trying to say is, when he's talking about going from 10 trillion here in pre-funded accounts down to 8 trillion, it doesn't mean that there's now 2 trillion necessarily in XRP locked up somewhere. It's not like you're changing where the pre-funding is occurring. No. The XRP moves very quickly and stuff. And so, and then of course some people like to then point out when that point is, and it's absolutely true what I just said, some people like, exactly, XRP is too fast and it can never be worth anything. And I'm going to talk about that perhaps. I've talked about it a little bit in the past. That would be fun for another video, but I don't want to get too into the weeds on this one. But I just wanted to just for the sake of this video for now, just point out that that $2 trillion, it's not just magically going to get locked up in XRP. That's not exactly how this works. No. Which is not a bad thing. This is by design. This is exactly how it's intended to work here. Anyway, Ripple created OnDemand Liquidity, formerly known as XRapid, to give banks a regulatory-compliant way to move money by using cryptocurrency, which leverages the speed of digital technology secured by cryptography as a bridge. The company is partnering with crypto exchanges that can accept fiat from financial institutions and send the equivalent value in XRP to a corresponding exchange overseas, where it is then converted right back to fiat. Garlinghouse says Ripple's early experience with MoneyGram, which is moving 10% of its volume to Mexico through its liquidity product. That's kind of a clunky way to word it. So 10% of the volume in that corridor from the United States to Mexico is being transferred utilizing on-demand liquidity. Anyway, it's the start of Ripple's efforts to build a new financial system around XRP. And here's another quote now. We want MoneyGram to see a dollar peso quote. What happens in the plumbing of the transaction doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they just want to know the quote, and if they can get it at that price, great. Done. Click. All the customer really cares about is, I need a dollar peso quote. I need $1,000 moved into Mexican pesos, and I need to do it right now. So there you go. And then they wrap up by stating this, which I've reported on. Ripple says it plans to expand the number of corridors for OnDemand Liquidity, beginning with Thailand and Australia next year. All right, next, here's a tweet from XRP, if I'm saying that right, 123. He is at FlexRP on Twitter. I like that. That's a good name right there. Anyway, he tweeted this out, and he tagged me along with some of my fellow XRP community members here. He wrote, "Who just finished filling his 5 and 10-year hold bags? This guy. Thanks." And then he tagged us and wrote, "You guys are the S word." But there could be the kids in the background, so I'm not going to read the S word. I'm just going to acknowledge that there is an S word. But anyway, no, thank you very much for tagging me. I do appreciate that, and congrats on your purchases there, good sir. All right, next here, and this is from Daily Hodl. Largest shopping mall operator in the United States goes all in on Bitcoin ATMs for holiday shoppers. The largest shopping mall operator in the U.S. has partnered with BitStop to deliver a fleet of new Bitcoin ATMs to several destinations. Simon Malls, a subsidiary of Simon Property Group, the largest shopping mall operator and retail real estate investment trust in the U.S., will roll out the new Bitcoin ATMs in time for Black Friday and Super Saturday. Bitcoin ATMs allow customers to easily and securely buy and sell Bitcoin for small amounts of cash. In addition to service and functionality, the launch is designed to give Bitcoin mainstream visibility and high-profile exposure during the biggest shopping days of the year. Says Andrew Barnard, BitStop co-founder and CEO, quote, "With the strategic timing of this new installation of Bitcoin ATMs at Simon Mall locations, customers can conveniently buy Bitcoin while doing their Black Friday and Christmas holiday shopping. Bitcoin is the perfect gift for family and friends this holiday season." Our BitStop Bitcoin ATM mall locations are at the forefront of a trend as Bitcoin and digital currencies become part of the mainstream culture. And this is always fascinating to me. Now, I believe that they have a legit business model here because this has been going on for years, and the adoption of these Bitcoin ATMs, it seems to be increasing at whatever pace. So perfectly cool if this is the way people want to buy it. But what I'm always curious about is, who are these humans that are buying Bitcoin this particular way? And with these fees associated with it specifically. You'd think that the type of people that are tech savvy, you'd think, and I guess I'm wrong. I mean, if they have a thriving business model, I guess my assumption is wrong. You'd think that they'd be savvy enough that they'd just be the type to maybe, buy it on their computer or smartphone or something like that. Why the Bitcoin ATM? And I would like to understand more about their, who's actually purchasing from these ATMs. I'd like just more about their business model. And that's out of genuine curiosity, because it seems to me they got something going on here. I just don't know why, and I am curious. So it's something there. I mean, have you ever purchased from a Bitcoin ATM? If so, let me know, and why. I'm just curious, legitimately curious. But that's it for this video, and thank you very much for stopping by. I do appreciate the support. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.